Big day today.
It really is. Mostly the main thing I wanted to encourage everyone is to go out and vote. Get all your friends and family to vote. There's only a few hours left to vote. I think most places close around 8 p.m. Some close a little bit earlier, some a bit later. But there's, depending on where you are, only 4 or 5 hours left to vote. So just make sure everyone is hounding friends and family to vote, vote, vote. This is the most important election of our lives. So I'm just going to be a broken record on that front. I've said it a few times. Um, so we definitely need to make some improvements to spaces so it's actually easier to see who to invite as a speaker. Let's see, I
There's
guess.
probably like hundreds of requests.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see, who's on from America Pack? So maybe someone from America Pack can talk as well.
Hey, it's Alex.
Hey, Alex. um, let's see, what's the latest in Pennsylvania? I think that's what most people have asked me about.
It looks like turnout is still really high. I think it's going to be, an insane night. Like you've been hitting, the early vote compared to 2020 has been insane. So as long as same day and election day voting hits their mark, I think we're in for a good night in Pennsylvania.
That's my impression too. So, if I recall correctly, we started today with about a 600,000, roughly 600,000 vote advantage in early votes relative to 2020. So there's still more Democrat early votes, but there were 600,000. The sort of R minus D early votes was about a 600,000 delta from the 2020 election. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it was 600,000. That is what we were seeing.
Yeah. So the Biden won Pennsylvania only by 80,000 votes, if I recall correctly, in 2020. So if we're going into this with a 600,000 vote advantage relative to 2024, relative to 2020, it seems like as long as people show up, there may be as much as maybe a 400,000 or 500,000 vote Republican victory in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And then I know, what is it, Cambria County, that is 10 p.m. that they just ruled that people can vote until 10 p.m. as well.
Great. Well, you want to just tell people everything you know about Pennsylvania or anything in general? And maybe there could be others as well that jump on from America Pack.
Well, one of the things, too, that people are really hitting on is the numbers in Florida, and they're trying to say that in the past that's been an indicator for higher Republican turnout in Florida has generally led to higher turnout nationwide, and the shift from blue to red in Florida has been an indicator nationwide for states like that. But in general, the fact that we're seeing Republicans in Nevada and in North Carolina winning the early vote straight out is a clear indicator of a trend that's shifting from blue to red. So as long as as we've been hitting, like, men showing up in Pennsylvania is going to be huge. And as long as we're hitting those trends on the same day, like we have in the past, I think it's going to be, a big night. I think Trump could take all of the battleground states and possibly even flip, a couple surprise states like maybe Virginia or New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think New Hampshire is a little pretty or dry state. I always think that that's kind of more of a naturally Republican state.
Yeah, and in 2016, I know it was a lot closer, and then it shifted blue. But I've seen, some positive indicators there have been that the Kamala campaign has actually been campaigning there, which I think that indicates that they were doing some internal polling and seeing that might be a problem area there. And then also, same with Virginia. They were shifting resources to Virginia in the last couple days. So definitely, it's hard too because we don't see a lot of public polls in those areas, like, because people didn't consider them in play. So the fact that we have to look at what they're doing as far as resources just is an indicator for what their internals are showing. But yeah.
Sounds promising. Yeah.
We want to try and bring up some other speakers? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a look.
Elon, by the way, are you gaming it up?
Yeah, just a little background activity.
Yeah, of course. Gotta keep the rankings going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on how crazy X is, and the fact that you guys were calling out Google for how it was causing that error, really to just showcase Harris and where to vote, right? And then how quickly Google will put out a response. I mean, there's literally no other platform that can get a response like that. So great work on that.
Yeah, actually, so it turns out that some part of it is just confusion. There's a Harris County, so if you say where can I vote in Harris, they assumed county. So a lot of what people thought was differential guidance for voting uh, for Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump was actually it was actually just Google sending you to where to vote in Harris County. So it's less nefarious than it seemed. Still confusing. Less, less nefarious than it appeared at first.
Elon, have you looked into betting platforms as an indicator or as an early indicator compared to polls, considering polls are a bit lagging and haven't been too accurate the last 8 years?
Well, the numbers that I look at are not the polls. I think the polls are, roughly on par with astrology. And I mean, and a poll that, like Nate Silver did, like whatever, a zillion simulations, comes out with a 50-50. I mean, it's like, that's kind of an impossible to lose poll. So it's like meaningless. The numbers that we look at America Pac are the early vote numbers from all of the swing states, and specifically how the early vote numbers track relative to 2020. So that's what I meant by like the Republican minus Democrat votes and the delta between 2024 and 2020. In my opinion, that is the strongest indicator because those are real numbers, not imaginary numbers.
Well, the betting platforms, the reason I asked about them and I'm using them as an indicator is that people are betting their money, and you've got the efficient market hypothesis. So any arbitrage opportunities, you've just got capitalists closing that up. And I looked at the accuracy over the last 3 decades. It was at 77%, which usually betting platforms have an accuracy of 70%. So they seemed like an interesting indicator, and they showed Trump up by over 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, they might be better than just trying to call people on the phone and get their opinion. But the betting odds have varied dramatically, and they do shift. If there's a large, if somebody comes in and puts in a large bet, you're going to see a massive shift in the betting platforms. And we saw that over the weekend, where there were giant gyrations in the betting odds. The same is true of the stock market. The stock market is vary quite a lot. I mean, look at Tesla's stock will go up sometimes 20 up or down 20% in a day, but it's still the same company. And it's just really people making large purchases or sales of stock. And so now, I maybe if you do a trailing average of the betting odds, you're going to get something a bit more accurate. But the moment to moment, even day to day gyrations of the betting markets, I think they obviously just vary so much that they're not a clear indicator. Like I said, the thing that I think really matters is the trend on early voting. And the trend on early voting has been extremely good. So I've posted some of these charts on the X platform. If you go back, to around say October 10th, looking at say the Pennsylvania RMSD early vote delta 2024 versus 2020, there were actually relatively more early votes before about the 10th or 12th of October. Basically, the Democrats were actually doing better in Pennsylvania than in 2020 until around October 10th or so, and then things started to shift. Lines crossed over, and then it went very heavily in favor of Republicans for early voting. In terms of the delta, there's still more Democrats that did early votes in Pennsylvania, but far fewer than in 2020. So that's what I mean when I say at the beginning of today. There was the Democrats were 600,000 votes worse off than they were in 2020. Now, there were 6.9 million people that voted in the 2020 Pennsylvania election, and so that's a giant number. 1% of the electorate, funnily enough, is 69K, and we had almost a 600,000 delta going in. So we're talking about maybe 7-ish%, 8% of the electorate difference. This is massive. In order to overcome that, there would have to be far fewer Republican voters that actually showed up. But if a similar number show up in person with no Dem advantage relative to 2020, we should expect to see a pretty much a landslide Republican victory in Pennsylvania. Like like a several 100,000 vote win by the Republicans. That's what it, that's the most reliable data. Now this is very contingent upon people actually showing up and voting. We're we're doing everything we can to ensure that people can get to the polls. We're offering we have a fleet of vehicles getting people to the voting stations, which the Democrats always do that, but the Republicans are not that good at doing it. Normally, the Democratic ground game is vastly superior to the Republican ground game, but this time, I think the Republican ground game is better than the Democratic ground game. We're making sure that anyone in the Amish community who wishes to vote, that we transport them to the polling stations. They're they're not. I don't think they don't want to or are not allowed to kind of drive vehicles, but they're allowed to be transported. So we're just making sure that they are able to vote, making it convenient and easy to get to the polling stations, and that all seems to be working pretty well. I think things are trending overall in a very positive direction. Yeah, so overall, I think Team America is going to win here.
Base. Benny, do you have anything?
Hey, Elon, how you doing, man?
Good. How's it going?
Good. Are you wearing your dark gothic MAGA hat?
I do not. I'm not currently wearing a hat. My online avatar is.
That is my all-time favorite MAGA hat. My question to you is for a response to Claire McCaskill, who is a disgraced senator who lost her position in a landslide election defeat, who was on MSNBC yesterday or the day before saying that you should not be involved in politics. You should leave it to the professional to be involved in politics.
Sure.
And she was chastising you for that, followed quickly by Rachel Maddow saying that the American government should come in and destroy all of your businesses out of revenge for you protecting free speech and our right to vote in this country. I would like to get your response to those two MSNBC talking heads.
Well, I mean that's like they're basically suggesting a fascist response that that people and companies should be punished for their political views, which is obviously incredibly inappropriate and undemocratic. So yeah, that's obviously totally insane. We definitely cannot have people like that in power. That's just crazy. I mean, I would never suggest that we punish anyone. If somebody's like prominent Democrat or whatever, and they're even while Cuban, I'm no fan of Cuban, but I would never suggest that we punish his businesses just because he's been a spokesman for the Dems. That's crazy. We want to have free and fair and balanced elections, and same goes for the X platform. I'm going to obviously voice my opinion very strongly, but I, if there's any unfairness or anything to Democrats, independents, or anyone else, I mean, we want to make sure that that's addressed because things should win as a function of the will of the people, and there should be free speech for all within the bounds of the law. So public town square, that's as fair as possible. So
George, do you have anything?
Yeah, hi, Elon. Behizzy here. Simple question. It's the most important question ever. If I could guess who you voted for correctly, it's a mystery. Could I please get a tour of the Tesla factory to see my Cybertruck get built? Because I'm ordering one.
Well, we're going to keep this discussion to the election. But I think we do offer tours of our Texas Gigafactory. But I'll find out about that. I think if you really want a tour, if they bought a card and they want to come see the factory, then we should allow them to do that. We had that at Fremont for a long time, and then it got canceled because of COVID. But it was a big hit, and it's kind of cool to see just how a car factory works. So, take note of that. And I think in general, we do want to enable factory tours.
And I just want to thank you for everything you've done with talking about election integrity, because that's the thing I care about the most. And I think your voice is a deterrence. They don't like all the public attention that comes with your powerful voice. So I want to thank you for that on behalf of America.
You're welcome. Yeah. So let's see. I actually tried to add Brian Krasenstein, but it gave me an error. So
yeah, I'm getting errors when I'm trying to add some new speakers.
So maybe we hit like a speaker limit or something.
Yeah, while you're doing that,
I think you cut out, Mario.
Oh yeah, it's glitchy.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might need to drop out and come back. Your audio is glitching.
I can hear America back very clearly.
Yep. It's Mario. I think that I'm not hearing.
let's see.
Gail, you have your hand up if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. So my thing I wanted to hear what Elon had to say or his thoughts about this, like a specific, unique kind of niche ideology that used to be just specific in the San Francisco area. And like, what Elon, what do you think about? Like, first of all, how did it spread so fast across our country, the USA? And also, Elon, do you think that that ideology is a kind of a driving force in why people are saying they really want to vote for Harris? Can y'all hear me okay?
I can hear you. I think there's a couple errors with the unmuting button. I think I'm hearing as well. It's happening on my end as
Yeah, I
well.
think that to fix it, if you can hear me, I can tell you how to fix it. If anyone can't unmute, just put your hand down, and then you could. That's what worked for me.
Should I repeat my question?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I wanted to hear Elon's your thoughts on the niche, unique ideology of the San Francisco area, and how you think it spread so fast across the USA. And I wanted to ask you if you think it's a driving force, like one of the driving forces in why people are supporting Harris.
Yeah, I think it is. Effectively, you've got Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X/Twitter in the Bay Area. Now X, obviously, we've made a great effort to try to be not be kind of controlled by like the niche San Francisco Berkeley fallout ideology. But the others have really been kind of infiltrated by far left activists. That's who controls their trust and safety. So in quotes, trust and safety. I've got another hat, by the way, called "Make Orwell Fiction Again." Pretty great. There's all these organizations with Orwellian names. Like, I don't think you should trust an organization called Trust and Safety. So it's just and a lot of them just they don't even think that they think they're mainstream, but they're not. They're just living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and everyone around them has similar views, but those views are really far left. And then they they influence how the social media companies work, and so you just have a very strong bias towards left on social media. And then legacy media is the same thing. The legacy mainstream media, if you look at donations by reporters in sort of legacy mainstream media, it used to be much more even, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, and it's now at the point where it's, I think, like Democrat. If you sort of take the split, Democrat versus Republican, it's like 90%, I think, plus Democrat contributions from reporters at legacy mainstream media. So that they're just looking at things from a very biased lens that's not in sync with the center of the country. Yeah, and yeah, I think probably you would not see a candidate like Kamal really have much of a chance at all if not for the legacy and the social media being controlled by the far left.
One more. I want to know your thoughts, Elon, on. So, in my experience, I've seen therapists and counselors and lots of teachers, even coaches, who seem to hold very far left viewpoints, and they're the ones in touch with our kids, whether it's elementary school, preschool, all these different levels of education. At least in my experience, these are the kind of people that are attracted to this. Do you think there's any way forward to move away from this, and what would be the steps that we could take to protect our kids?
Yeah, I think we do certainly need to make any kind of federal funding of education contingent upon the absence of political bias in schools. So kids are in schools to learn useful skills and understand the world. They're not there to be indoctrinated in any ideology. So that I think would help a lot. Is just the government should not be funding something that is like extremely partisan politically. So yeah, I think we've just got to start with education. Yeah.
Thank you, and I'm going to go down so y'all can bring up another speaker. Thank you, Elon.
You're welcome.
Tesla owner Silicon Valley. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, Elon, obviously, you've been very outspoken and you obviously started the America PAC. But what do you think? There's a lot of things that obviously within the America PAC that you laid out, but what do you think is going to be the future of America if, let's say, Harris does win?
Well, I think we've got a real problem actually, and I mentioned this on the Joe Rogan conversation I had with yesterday, which is I'd really recommend if anyone's not to the Rogan conversation, the podcast that we had yesterday, I just really strongly recommend it because I pretty much said that we went through a lot of important subjects, and I think it's interesting to hear what Joe Rogan's got to say, and what I've got to say. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think that the most important thing is just getting people to go out and vote. I mean, just can't emphasize that enough, because I think a lot of people have really said pretty much everything they're going to say, but we better go out and vote. And I do think the consequences, as I mentioned in the Joe Rogan episode, are pretty severe. And in my opinion, I think there's a risk that this is potentially the end of democracy. In that, if Democrats are able to bring in like vast numbers of people to the swing states, so import vast numbers of illegals to the swing states, and if you look at the government data, I mean, we're seeing some states where there's been like triple-digit increases in illegals in swing states. Like in some cases, I think it's like 600,000-700,000% increase in 3 years. These are crazy numbers. So the risk there is that they're if you've got swing states where the margin of victory might be as little as 10, 20,000 votes, and then you bring in 200,000 people who are somewhat beholden to the Democratic Party, then they can easily swamp the vote in the swing states, and then you don't really have a real election anymore. You're just going to have a Democratic primary like it is in California, where there's no chance of the Republicans winning. It's just Democrat primary. But I think it's actually would be worse than California, because California is still limited by, at least one of the things holding California back is that people can move to other states. If they can't move to other states, then I think you'd see like far more draconian socialist policy. So in my view, if Trump doesn't win, I think this could be our last election. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Dan, do you have anything?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hey,
Hey.
Elon. I wanted to make one statement, and then I had a question for you, Elon. So the statement is really a reminder for anybody listening, especially if you haven't voted, because I've been through enough of these and I've seen it done before. Don't trust like early exit polls or anything you're hearing. Like if you're in line, stay in line to vote. I've just seen far too many tricks where they'll even go into lines and tell people, hey, like it's already up, don't worry about voting, and people get out of line. So it's just a really important reminder. If you haven't voted, go vote. And if you're in line, please stay in line until your vote gets counted. It's just super important. And then my question for you, Elon, is, I'm obviously have a vested interest in the X platform, working for X, and I love the platform. But you've talked about the First Amendment and maybe the ramifications of a Harris administration for X. I'm curious, like, is it overhanded to say that maybe X could get shut down or it could get heavily fined by an administration? I've heard things like John Kerry, a prominent Democrat, stating they need to fight misinformation and maybe more draconian measures. Your thoughts, Elon, on where it might go if she gets elected in the future of X?
Yeah, I think we'll basically be given a choice of either censorship or shutdown. That's what I mean. Kerry was even talking about. John Kerry was on an interview talking about how the First Amendment's an obstacle to their censorship, what they want to do. I'm like, that's the whole idea of the First Amendment, is that it's meant to be an obstacle. It's meant to be hard for the government to inhibit freedom of speech, because the places that people came from, they came from countries where if you spoke your mind, you could get imprisoned or killed. So that's why the First Amendment exists, is to protect the people from the government. That's the whole idea. That's why we have a constitution. So yeah, I'm very concerned by the talk among many Democrats that is anti-freedom of speech. And I mean, and they always use the words like, well, they want to get rid of hate speech. I'm like, sure, like nobody likes it. I mean, I think you have to be a real jerk to like hate speech. But who's to say what hate speech is? The government? I don't trust it. I mean, it's crazy to think that you could trust the government to decide what's hate speech and what's not. The same thing is true of the right to bear arms. Like it's not, obviously nobody wants school shootings. Obviously, that's terrible. But and I think it was I heard someone online just make quite a compelling argument for right to bear arms, which is that I think she was asking like, can you guarantee that the United States will never have a tyrannical government? And it's like, well, of course you can't guarantee that the government's never going to be tyrannical. It's like, great, then we need to keep our guns. Yeah, it's worth noting that when Chavez took power in Venezuela, he was big on he took people's guns away, and for their safety or whatever, and then you had the Maduro, the sort of fake elections, and Maduro refused to concede, and when they protested, he shot them. So I think we need to make sure that we preserve the Constitution, and freedom of speech and right to bear arms are crucial to that. Crucial. So that's why we did this petition, to show just how much support there is for freedom of speech and right to bear arms among voters in swing states. So we now have over 1 million people who signed it, and these things are there for a reason, and if we don't have them, I think we won't have democracy. And if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have real democracy, because you're living in a false reality without freedom of speech. So you can't make an informed decision. If you can't make an informed decision, it's not real democracy. And it is funny to see, like, people do live in different worlds. Like, for people that get all their news from like the legacy media, just like read the newspaper and or watch MSNBC or something, they just live in a totally different world, and like they think a whole bunch of these hoaxes are real. They think like Trump's like a Nazi sympathizer, and like the Madison Square Gardens rally was a Nazi rally. This sort of what the fine people hoax. And I was at the Madison Square Gardens rally. There was like an Israeli flag there. There were people of all sort of races, creeds, religions, and it was a very positive energy crowd. It's the furthest thing from a Nazi rally, and yet that's what the media called it, which is just totally insane. They try to say that, for example, when Trump was talking about, like, unless there are some tariffs placed on vehicle imports from Mexico, that there will be a bloodbath in the auto industry. And then the media headline was, Trump claims there'll be a bloodbath, meaning like an actual violence. It was just a metaphor for what would happen to the American car companies. But then people thought, oh, Trump's calling for a violent bloodbath. That's just crazy. It's just one thing after another. But if somebody only listens to, mainstream or watches mainstream media, so-called mainstream legacy media, I call it, then they have this totally wrong idea. They think like Trump is like actually Hitler type of thing, and because they've called him that. In fact, I think one headline called him like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini rolled into one. But obviously, he was president for 4 years, and he didn't do it. There was no genocide, and he didn't start any wars, which is the reason we actually hate Hitler, is because he with genocide and wars, and Trump didn't need those things. So anyway, there's just a lot of nutty things. That's why I really encourage people to send X.com links to friends, so they can actually just see the source materials. Like, really, if you want to get to the bottom of things, you want to see the source material. You want to see the actual speech that Trump made, or just the actual event, as opposed to someone's sort of tiny soundbite of the event, or edited version. Point people to the source material, and they can see what actually happened.
Is it on free speech? Is it fair to say that the media just went way too far this time around? That it could be that pivotal moment where trust erosion in mainstream media is now outweighed by people tuning into podcasts, and I think the metrics at X speak for that. I think you got 47% of Americans tuning into podcasts. Could we finally see that shift away from mainstream media being the arbiter of truth, like a genuine shift rather than just wishful thinking?
I think we've already seen a significant shift where people are getting their news from the X platform, and we are the number one source of news in the world. So yeah, I think that is happening. And I think it's also like, once people see that they've been fooled, that the legacy media tricked them, and they were lied to. When that happens, as soon as they realize that's happening, and it hasn't happened just a few times, but many times, they just no longer believe the media for good reason. Because it's like, I think it's Abe Lincoln said, you can fool some people all the time, or fool some of the time. You can't fool all people all of the time. And And so, more and more people just get like, well, I'm just going to go see what the actual source material is on X, so I'm going to check community notes and actually figure out what's going on.
The other thing, too, what you mentioned about free speech and the fact that misinformation and hate speech is often used as an excuse. I think the perfect distillation of that was this week with the Liz Cheney hoax and what you were talking about, people who get their news from people like, on MSNBC. Morning Joe went on an entire rant this morning about that and was talking about the dangerous disinformation, and in the same breath was talking about the Liz Cheney hoax as if it was real when it's been thoroughly debunked. Yes,
like that's like the sheer cognitive dissonance of complaining about disinformation while then immediately spouting disinformation it's like mind blowing.
It was within the same minute too, and then to your point about like using that as the the case to like censor speech and violate constitutional rights. Tim Walz has gone on cable news and said that same thing. There is no guarantee of the First Amendment when it comes to hate speech and disinformation, and he's absolutely incorrect. And obviously, like I just said, the people who are determining what is hate speech or disinformation are often the people who push disinformation themselves.
Yeah, so. Exactly. They who smelt it dealt it. I actually got a ton of calls and a lot of people approached me this weekend about the Liz Cheney hoax, where they were actually literally on the impression that Trump had suggested executing Liz Cheney. I'm like, that's totally insane. What Trump was saying was that Liz Cheney would be much less of a warmonger if she had to go to the front lines herself. And it's a lot easier to want to do war if you're having fancy dinners in, say, Washington D.C. or something, while other people die in trenches. So basically saying that Liz Cheney and her dad are obviously huge warmongers, and like they love war and they profit from it. So they have like stock ownership in companies that profit from war, which is a terrible incentive. So like Trump's right, like that people just should. It's just basically lacks empathy to be living in comfort while other people are dying at war. You just would have a very different perspective if you had to actually go fight that war yourself. And that's what he was saying about Liz Cheney, and it's a very valid point.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing too I wanted to hit on. Well, I know Dan talked about it. Is if you're in line, to stay in line. Another thing is if you're on your commute home from work and you haven't voted yet, get in line if your polling places are still open. And also to text your friends, call your friends, and ask if they voted. And that their vote could, especially in states like Pennsylvania, could change the outcome of the election. So just a reminder there, polls are starting to close. I think first polls are closing in just under 10 minutes. And then we have, every hour on to 10 p.m. later, polls will be closing. So just a reminder there to, encourage all of your friends to vote. There's still time.
By the way, guys, just before you go to the hands, Washington Post 4 minutes ago put out a story that says for nearly half of Trump voters, overt appreciation of Hitler is acceptable. Literally minutes ago, they say 50% of Trump voters. Yeah, just now they say 50% of Trump voters would still back a candidate who praised Hitler. That's the Washington Post. So they're sealing. That's the last nail in the coffin.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's totally insane. I mean, who they ask, but that is just totally nuts. I mean, there's the sheer amount of propaganda being pushed by legacy media is just outrageous. They're sort of shielded by a Supreme Court decision that literally allows them to flat out lie about public figures and face no repercussion. It's like kind of maybe an overly generous interpretation of the First Amendment. Like people should be able to say what they want to say, but there's still penalties for saying that. Like there's still civil and tort penalties for saying that. So I do think it's probably not that doesn't make sense that you can just blatantly lie and over again just get away with it with zero financial consequence.
They're doing you a favor. The metrics on X kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah, just they kind of are doing me a favor, frankly, because more and more people just go to X to find out what's really going on.
Hey, Elon, I wanted your thoughts on the Google interference thing. I mean, considering how big Google is, do you think that's illegal what they're doing, just suppressing Trump's name?
Well, it's not clear that in that particular instance, I think they didn't, at least in that instance, did not suppress Trump's name. It was that when people searched for Harris, it was showing them the locations for Harris County, not where to vote for Kamala in general, just for Harris County. So that was, I think, a misunderstanding, at least on that front. I mean, there are other question marks that are maybe more significant, like when Trump had the interview with Joe Rogan. It was the biggest interview in the world, and you could not find it. You'd search for it on Google or YouTube, couldn't find it for several hours, which is that's very odd, because it's obviously it's Joe Rogan's channel on YouTube, and that's YouTube already knows that's a big channel. So it's like they claimed it like that there was so much so many people watched the interview that it triggered some automatic search ban or something like that. But I mean, come on, it's Joe Rogan's channel, and took a long time to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Those should be easier fixes, especially if it's like national news. If it's number one hosted on your platform and then like national news, it should just be like a glaring alarm bell that like it's not searchable. And you'd think there'd be some sort of guardrails for when like most prominent users on the platform to I think their excuse was that there was like mass reporting of it or something as spam. Or I forget.
No, that doesn't. They've looked into it. They've apparently, I think Calacanis and David Sachs and Friedberg were talking about it on the podcast. That explanation of people flagging it just didn't make sense because it happens all the time, and there's a system in place to make sure that doesn't impact the ranking for so many hours. So the explanation didn't have too much weight.
I didn't know either. It wouldn't make sense for them to be able to gain.
Yeah, it's certainly the case that Google prioritizes left-wing media in their search results. Also prioritizes quite a bit of Reddit, which is very left-wing at this point. So there's just a natural left-wing bias that Google has.
What about Sundar's letter to employees asking them to be neutral? Is it genuine? Is it too little, too late?
I think his message is genuine, but it does say something that he would have to actually send because he's sending such a message because he's worried that people won't be, and because they haven't been. I mean, when Trump won in 2016, I mean, Google had like a struggle session next level. Like they had like give people time off and like psychological counseling because Trump won. Like that's how far left Google is. Like they're like people are just like literally bawling their eyes out and taking days off work, and like that's the level of psychological trauma just because Trump won, quite fairly won the presidency against tough odds. So those people are still there at Google. I don't think they've changed their mind about Trump for the most part. It's a real concern. But I think it's very telling that when you look at the fact that the Democrats outspent the Republicans, so Trump was way outspent in dollars, including my contribution in the swing states and just generally. He has, the Dems have, like, I don't know, almost every celebrity, like 80-90% of celebrities endorsing Kamala. They've got massive bias in the legacy mainstream news, with absurdly favorable coverage of Kamala and absurdly negative false coverage of Trump. And they also have a great ground game, which is something that the America PAC has helped fix, is that we've I think made a very significant difference in the Republican ground game this election cycle to at least match, if not exceed, the Democratic ground game. But basically the Democrats, like, they have all the cards. It's like, it's insane that frankly, I'm like, I wonder, how do Republicans ever win, given that Democrats have so much on their side? And I think it's because the people see through a lot of this, and the people are just a lot more mainstream, normal than the social media and companies and the legacy media companies and Hollywood, which are very far left.
Texas Lindsay, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I noticed that Washington Post actually had another story come out today, and I was wondering if it was true or not. Elon, it said that you're going to be celebrating or watching the election results over at Mar-a-Lago tonight. Is that true?
That is true. I actually just voted in South Texas because I'm registered to vote in Cameron County, which is where Starbase is, from my little house on William Street, which is now called Meme Street. So I just voted, and now I'm headed to Florida, I'll just be there with President Trump and JD and a bunch of other cool people.
They actually got a story right. It's very surprising. I'm shocked, actually.
Yeah, I think it's I think one thing that's like maybe underrated here is that like the Trump team is, I think that they're good people, and they're also just like they're fun. It's like they've got a great sense of humor, like making jokes. I mean, Trump actually has quite a bit of self-deprecating humor.
Up in a garbage truck was a great example of that.
Yeah, exactly. He's driving garbage trucks. He's working at McDonald's.
That was the most epic troll I've ever seen. I can't believe he did that. It was the timing, everything was perfect.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. I think the public did too.
So, which
So,
one of the 400 agencies, if Trump does win tonight, is going to be eliminating? That was my next question.
well, assuming that if things go the right way with this election, we're going to do a comprehensive review of all the government agencies. There's many people I've never even heard of. There's a lot of duplicate responsibility where multiple agencies actually have overlapping portfolios, which is unnecessary. And as I said, and which I think is clear from just looking at the data, America is way overspending. Like we're just like an individual that's like gotten way out on credit card debt or something, and we're in this insane situation where the interest payments on our national debt now exceed the Defense Department budget, which is $1 trillion. So we're spending more than $1 trillion just paying down interest, and the more debt we accumulate, the more we'll pay interest until basically the entire budget will just be interest and we won't have money for anything. So this is a real crisis, like a very severe crisis that the media doesn't talk about, and so we've got to do something about it. We've got to make significant reductions in government spending, and we've got to we just need to move. Like there's a lot of people that work for the government that we just need to transition them to more productive roles in the private sector where they can make products and services that would be more useful.
We need some Argentina action.
Yeah. So it's got to be done, and we want to do it like obviously in a sort of fair and humane way, and make sure people don't have like financial strife. So to be kind of I was thinking it depends on the situation, but something on the order of like 2 years of people can continue to get paid for 2 years, or I mean maybe more in some cases if they're long tenured, and so it's not like they can't make the mortgage payment. They just get a couple of years to kind of figure out something new to do, so take a vacation, take a second job, still get paid for their old job. I think that's a pretty good deal. And
and you have some term limits on bureaucrats in office. Like Fauci was in office since like 1984, and that clearly problem that you end up with lifetime bureaucrats running everything.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Fauci, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Fauci. I think he should be held accountable for some of his some things he's done, which of course harm to a lot of people. Funding bioweapons labs in other countries is not cool, in my opinion, at all. So, which he did. And when someone's in like a position of power in the bureaucracy for such a long time, they just get, I think, somewhat corrupted over time. So somebody shouldn't be in government for such a crazy long time. We really, the country was founded on really small government principles. There's supposed to be just 3 branches of the government. There's supposed to be the legislative, executive, and judicial. But now we've got this 4th branch, which in a lot of ways is more powerful than any of the other branches, which is this vast federal bureaucracy. So I think it's holding America back in a big way, and we can really unleash a new age of prosperity by simplifying the rules. We still want regulations, they just need to be necessary regulations. So I liken it to referees on a field in a sports game. You want to have you don't want to have no referees, but you don't want to have more referees than players. That's crazy. And
that was a great.
Yeah.
Well,
Elon, on that topic,
tonight
I was going to want to follow up on that question. On that topic, Elon, like a lot of news publications came out around the time when you said there would be, I think, the word hardship, and they predicted they basically claimed you predicted there would be economic turmoil and a stock market crash. Can you clarify for everyone listening, like what you meant there? Because I feel like they probably took that ball and ran down for the field with him.
Yeah, I'm very confident that there will not be a stock market crash. In fact, I think we will see a rise in the value of equities, and as a function of prosperity. And like I said, in reducing the size of federal government, we'll make sure people, still making the same money they were making before for, I don't know, at least a couple of years. So, there only really would be hardship if people after 2 years can't find something else to do, which I think is very unlikely. But I actually, my thing, I think the most likely outcome, if there's significant deregulation, is just like what happened with when Reagan did it in the 80s, is that he unleashed a massive age of, massive prosperity was unleashed with Reagan deregulation in the 80s. And that's I think what will happen with the Department of Government Efficiency, is that we'll make government way more efficient. We'll, people's tax money will be spent far more sensibly. And I'm not saying there might be a few bumps in the road, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we'll be headed for a golden age of prosperity.
Thanks, Elon. Sorry, Texas. I'll let you finish that. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if we result tonight, Elon to go live on X with Trump, I think that would be epic. Might break the internet.
Sure.
That would be.
That would be quite entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's how you guys should announce the victory if it happens on X.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it's clear enough. The votes are clear enough that there is a victory tonight. So yeah, but if so, I'll try to do some.
We will definitely know the results in Georgia, since they passed a law saying that they have to have all votes counted within an hour of the precincts closing. So hopefully we'll get some good news and a quick turnaround here in Georgia, and hopefully more states follow suit and add that legislation to their state law as well. That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, I think across the country we should be mandating, voter ID, in-person voting, unless there's a very good reason not to do in-person voting, and like somebody's got a really significant excuse, like they're serving overseas, and it's got to be same day counting, and that's it. And they do this in many other countries, and we can too.
Wall Street Silver, do you have anything to add?
I think Silver's having audio issues. He was DMing me earlier about it.
Oh, God. Okay. I'm just seeing that. All right. Let's see. Not Jerome. Do you have anything to add?
Hey, what's up, everyone? What's up, Elon? First, I'm gonna thank Elon for giving us this wonderful free speech platform where we can say whatever we want and we can meme whatever we want. That's good. But like other platforms. Recently, Mr. Trump said that he wants long-lasting peace in the Middle East. I wanna know Elon's stance on this matter. I wanna know if it's something achievable in like a short term, long term. What's his stance on it? And I'm gonna suggest Elon, when the Department of Government Efficiency comes, to keep my printer alone, please. Thank you.
I think Trump's record, prior record as president, speaks for itself. Where there were no wars started. In fact, we made significant inroads with North Korea, and I think people were. This is why it's very important to have a president where there's both the perception and the reality of strength, because people don't want to mess with a strong American. But if we have either the reality of perception or perception of a weak president, which, I mean, Biden obviously is, if they see that the American president can't even climb a flight of stairs, I mean, like, nobody's going to be intimidated by that. But I think Trump, people do find Trump intimidating. World leaders find him intimidating, so that is incredibly helpful for ensuring peace. Long-term peace in the Middle East, I sure hope so. It's a tough part of the world, but I think we can do a lot better than what's happened over the last 4 years. Like, a lot better.
Thank you, Elon. And please, tell Mr. Trump to give me a second term or to keep my printer alone. Thank you very much.
I think we're going to do something. I think your printer is printing too much money and needs to print less money.
Yeah, maybe I can do that if you give me the second term. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elon, just a question about the strategy when it comes to Pennsylvania. I think you guys, spent more money, more time there. You personally did more than all other swing states. Why Pennsylvania?
Well, Pennsylvania is really the linchpin. If you win Pennsylvania, the probability of overall electoral victory is like 80-90%. Because you need almost all the other swing states. If you lose Pennsylvania, which has got the most electoral votes, then you need almost all the other swing states to win. And I do have some ties, some history with Pennsylvania because I went to college there for 3 years. I know the state, um, and I felt that it was possible to shift Pennsylvania into the Republican camp. That was my instinct, and I think that'll be proven correct. I hope so. Um, Certainly, we've been able to shift the early voting difference dramatically. Um, as I mentioned, the Democrats were actually doing better than 2020 in early voting. Until around October 10th or so. And then with a concerted effort on many levels, we've managed to shift that so that there was now a massive disadvantage that the Democrats went into relative to 2020 in Pennsylvania, like I said, 600,000 votes, which is gigantic. When you consider it's like a 6.9 million people typically vote in a presidential. So, we've done a lot in the other states as well. But the focus had to be Pennsylvania because it's such a decisive factor in the election.
And another side question, not sure if there's hands up, American Pact, but just one other follow-up question. I had the pleasure of speaking to your mum 2 days ago on the show. I think it's 2 or 3 days ago. She's coming again today. She's also, it was an incredible discussion, and she was so fun. But she's gotten a lot more active in the last few days. Has she chatted to you about it? What triggered her? Because she was a lot more, I kind of saw the gradual passion over the last few days and weeks. Do you know what triggered that? Is that just kind of following your footsteps, seeing how passionate you were, or was there any specific issue that got her energized?
Well, I mean, she's my mother, so she saw me just getting attacked relentlessly, and the Dems doing crazy things like saying that I need to be denaturalized, as might have my U.S. citizenship taken away from me and my companies taken away from me, and I think she's pretty upset about that. She sort of started digging into things that the legacy media was saying about Trump, and then finding out that she'd been lied to, and she's like, well, after one thing after another. Um, and so she's very tenacious and very smart, and I have a lot of respect for my mom, and she's quite formidable, so she's on the warpath.
Let's see. Do we got a question from Rabbit? And apologies, I'm trying to add more people from the stage, but I'm just getting an error.
Sorry, I'm gonna drop off then. Thank you very much for having me, guys. I'm gonna drop off for other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for having me up here. I did have some questions regarding the woke mind virus and kind of the plan to tackle that, but I did want to follow up Mario's question. So for Miss Musk, was there a specific lie about Trump that once was kind of debunked that kind of swayed her a little bit? Because I know there's the buying people on both sides hoax, for example, that many people bought into, and then once they realized that full context where he wasn't supporting Nazis and white nationalists, and he explicitly condemned them, that kind of swayed them. So was there a specific moment in the media narrative that kind of once she saw the other side that it kind of switched her over?
I'll ask you about that because I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure what the fundamental thing was. What the biggest impact?
I asked her that question 3 days ago. What she answered, what she told me was the lies she constantly saw on mainstream media. I think when she kind of woke up to that, I think most people are in a similar bucket, starting to wake up to the kind of other universe that the mainstream media is creating.
Yeah, basically, speaking of rabbit holes, once you start going down the hoax rabbit hole and you start finding that one thing after another was a hoax, I think it tends to make people very angry because they feel like, wow, I can't believe I've been lied to so much for so long and so consistently. Legacy media's I think made a huge mistake by being so partisan and so deceptive. And this is, in fact, if you have friends and family who are still sort of buying into these, sort of still, I don't know, call us supporters or whatever. Just showing them the source material, I think, is the biggest thing. Just saying, well, what are the things that you dislike about Trump? Let's watch the actual video. That this you can hear what he said. You don't have to hear someone's opinion of what he said. You can actually hear what he said and see if you think that matches with what you've been told by the media. And then they look at them like, wow, that's actually, he said the total opposite of what the media said. He said, yeah. Now let's go through it. Go over another hoax. Oh, well, that one's wrong too. Oh, this other hoax is wrong. Well, this is one after another. How many do you want to go through? And then that's the best. Basically, truth and sunlight are the best antidote to the people who've sort of been bamboozled by the legacy media.
Hello, it's me. I'm May.
Hi.
I've just come on. I might as well give my own thoughts
Yeah,
and
that's funny.
why I spent a week like totally dedicated to Republicans and
That's
Trump and voting and everything. I mean, beyond what I would do. The thing is, I was at a 3-day fashion conference in Marrakesh, and I dare not talk politics among fashion people. So I said, when I get back, I might ruin my modeling career, but I'll help you save America, and that's why I was so active in the last week.
Well, thanks. But to the point is, I guess part of it is what we're trying to figure out is like, well, how do we uh, convince others to, support Trump or rethink their support? Maybe at least move them to neutral. Uh, like, what is most convincing to you? Uh,
To go on to X and to go on to Fox News. I mean, you remember for how many years was 20 years, that 25 years, Fox News were the devil, the devil. And suddenly, my twin sister said to me, "You've got to follow Fox News. They really say the facts and they are honest." And I thought, no, this can't be true. The New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, they said it's bad, bad, bad. And then I said, I went on Fox News and I was very impressed. And now I've just done 4 interviews for Fox News.
okay,
So, and I had fun, and because I trusted them.
great.
You also, May, you also in our chat earlier, you talked about how your friends who are also Democrats, they've also, they're kind of following your footsteps and starting to question a lot of their earlier beliefs. Is that for similar reasons? That similar to seeing the mainstream media's lies, or did they all have different reasons?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess they still want to be my friends. And just they just don't know what to do. They're more confused, and so I've told them to vote for the vote Republican, and they're asking me how am I doing, how am I feeling. I'm getting texts all day today, because it's very intense, and we have to win.
It is very intense. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
And I'm very proud of my son. I'm very proud of Elon. I'm all the time.
thanks, mom.
And yeah, I think New York Times is doing a hit piece on you
I
tomorrow.
mean, listen.
I have
What else is new?
in,
I mean,
and
honestly,
We've
Alaska
lost
is like
count.
another day, another hit piece. It's like,
and so, but it was someone who's very upset,
okay,
and I said, no, this is normal.
yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. It's whatever.
Send them a poop
Get
emoji.
over it.
Yeah, seriously.
I
Yeah.
think, May, they're scared of you, May, because every time someone talks anything bad about you, you quote tweet them and attack them back on your
I
profile.
I crap on them. I just
Exactly.
I just I can be as hateful as they are
Cool.
because I can pull up the lies.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing about free speech is that like you get to is that the people that are like you kind of know who the bad guys are. It's like whoever doesn't want free speech, because that means that their
Yeah.
ideas can't stand light of day. That's
Yeah.
that like basically truth tellers don't fear free speech. Liars do.
Yeah, the weird thing is, I'm also on Instagram mainly for my modeling photos, and I've posted Fox News and Republican and Go to Vote, and I haven't been taken off, and I've had a lot of people liking what I'm saying, and and then I've had a lot of people who don't follow me and have 0 posts hating on me and being very malicious. So I actually screenshot about 10 of them and I just post them on my Insta story saying where they're coming from. They don't follow me. They have no posts. There must be some bots that the Democrats have put up.
Yeah, it sounds like what are they real or not? Yeah.
Yeah. And then those people who are real, because they do follow me, if they mean and malicious, then I block them. But if they just are giving their opinion, and then I'll just I hide their comment.
May, have you had a similar? So when Elon went all in on Trump, all the hit pieces
All
came
in,
out.
baby. Next level.
Exactly. But
Shall I explain
you're
it?
going good.
That
Yeah.
was funny.
May, you're going all in as well. Are you starting to get Are you feeling a hit piece coming in? Because I can't wait for to see your response to it.
Oh, I'll wait. No, nobody's been after me, which is disappointing and unusual.
They've got manners. They never go after the mum. I think they've got some. They've got a certain
No,
red line
oh
by the
no,
looks of it.
no, they'll come after me. They don't have a problem with that. They have no morals, so it doesn't matter. But then they have to go through my manager usually because I don't share any of my information, and she'll hit them down.
Well,
Hey, May. I just. Oh,
I,
God,
I,
Elon.
I think we're kind of seeing a sea change in the country, frankly. Kind of like a waking up, you know.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
I think for many people, the situation with COVID was a wake up call. Like it's like some of the stuff that was coming out on the media, like "fiery but peaceful" on CNN, like that was so
yeah,
in
just
your face propaganda that it's hard to not be awake after seeing that. Like at that point, they're insulting our intelligence as Americans.
yeah, they're telling you just don't believe your eyes. I'm like, well, wait, we're supposed to believe you and not believe our lying eyes? Like,
Mm.
what?
Yeah, yeah, like I just felt insulted at that point because that was it was a period when a lot of us were supposed to be sheltering in place, and then they made this giant. I think you called it a moral invincibility card for people participating in BLM protests, and they said, "Oh,
Yeah,
magically COVID will stop spreading if you're at a activist protest." And I was like, "Well, what about the rest of us? I thought we were in this together." And then they made this huge exception, carving it out, and then I was like, "All right, well, I guess if you're woke, you don't have to play by the rules."
yeah, and also if you're also illegally crossing the border, then it doesn't apply.
Mhm.
I'm like, how's
So,
that work? You know,
so
give
So
total
is it?
immunity just because you came illegally across the border? That seems weird.
Elon,
You know?
you've made X sort of the real player for popping the narrative against the mainstream media the past 2 years, but this is the first election where it's really going to have an impact. But even if we do win this year, if they ever get control, whether it's 2026 or 2028, they're going to do all those things like packing the Supreme Court or legalize a bunch of illegals. I mean, is there a plan with America Pac to continue beyond 2024?
Can anyone hear Elon? Is it glitching? I think. Elon, you're muted. I think, unless I'm the only one that can't hear you.
I can't
I
hear
can't
either.
hear. I can't hear
I think
anything.
everyone,
So.
everyone,
I'm sorry.
everyone was just too scared to actually.
Sorry.
Yeah, everyone was just too scared to jump in.
Sorry. Actually, I'm just about to land, so I have to sign off soon. But no,
Have a great party tonight. I hope you're celebrating.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm celebrating with friends. The closet Republicans in New York.
Yep.
No,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, no, so America Pac is going to keep going after this election, and be preparing for the midterms and any intermediate elections, as well as looking at elections at the district attorney level and basically judicial sort of level, because I think something needs to be done to kind of counter the damage that Soros has done to the American system. We just have to have DAs that protect the citizens of their cities and put like repeat violent offenders in prison. Like insane that we have in so many of our cities DAs who don't prosecute crime, and then the people of those cities suffer. You got that in New York, got that in LA, got that in Philadelphia. It's just nutty. And so I think basically American Fact's going to aim to weigh in heavily on the midterms and intermediate elections, as well as just doing common sense stuff like having DAs who prosecute repeat violent criminals who are obviously a danger to the people.
By the way, have you guys, Elon May, your thoughts on the strategy by Kamala, getting all these A-list celebrities to support them? It's the campaign. I'm surprised she's even that close in the polls because the campaign is mainly focusing on the strategy of emotions. So no logic, no numbers, no policy. All her answers are very vague. Yet for some reason, it still works with some people in the US. I just don't understand why not enough people see through it, and I wonder whether that could happen in future elections as well. Because it's not an election based on facts.
I know, but I was a former Democrat and I was a staunch Democrat. And, I didn't trust a Republican. I didn't trust the Fox News or any Republicans. And it is really hard to suddenly change. So it would take a few weeks to be able to accept the change after you've been believing for so long. And so that could just be slowing people down.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm
Hey,
cautiously
Elon.
optimistic that we'll see a pretty big change this election, and I think that I think that momentum will continue. It's at least my hope.
I hope.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, it's worth considering, for instance,
Elon,
Joe Rogan. Like I said, I really recommend people watch the podcast that we did yesterday. Because Joe was, Joe was a Democrat for a long time until recently, and Joe Rogan, for Joe Rogan to endorse Trump, that's a really big deal, because in times in the past he actually said I think he at one point, like he said, he would never endorse Trump, and he's come to the conclusion he's changed his mind. So again, because the more he looked at the data and everything, it's like he's like, well, these hoaxes aren't true. So I think we're just seeing it. I think there's a sea change in the country. I hope I'm not wrong about that. And and if Trump wins, we'll have 4 years to fix a lot of things and set up America for a grand age of prosperity. So with that, I'd have to sign off. Got to actually go meet with President Trump, and hopefully tonight will be a celebration. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Elon.
Thank you, Elon.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.